Good evening. I'm going to call the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee to order. Thank you for those in attendance, both at the dais and in the audience. The first thing on our agenda for the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee meeting is welcome and introductions. Why don't we start with introductions down maybe with Jason, and we'll just run the table. And just kind of a reminder for all of us who have microphones, you need to put the microphone down, and then the green light should be on when you're speaking. And that helps those who are online be able to hear. Thank you.
McKinley Prado.
Eli Gonzalez.
Rick Rayfeld.
Hallie McGann.
Harold Copeland.
Brenda Brecky. Stephanie Kilmer, Coos Bay Counselor and Urban Renewal Chair.
Sarah Stevens.
Nicole Rutherford, City Manager.
Christine Sylvester.
Christina Texera.
And then let's start, Chief.
Okay, I'm Chris Chapinar, Chief of Police.
Jeff Adkins, Fire Chief.
Chelsea Schnabel, Community Development Director.
Jennifer Wersing, Public Works Director.
Rachel Latta, Water Quality Superintendent.
And then online, Sammy.
Sammy Pearson, Library Director.
Jacob.
Jacob Niebergall, City Councilor.
And Lucinda.
Lucinda DeNovo, City Councilor.
All right, thank you. I think that captures everybody online. Perfect. So the first thing, or the next thing on our agenda is an overview of municipal budgeting in Oregon. For those of you who've been to our meetings in the past, this is going to be very familiar. I apologize for that, but it's always a good reminder to understand the process, just be reminded of what our role is here today. So we're going to start a PowerPoint. All right, and then it's me. Okay. So we're going to kind of just walk through here. We'll do a little bit of background. We'll talk about the mechanics, how the budget document is actually set up, and the fund structure that the city and the Urban Renewal Agency uses, and then just some additional kind of things that help round out the conversation. So for the background, what is a budget? It is a legal document, and it is what gives the city and the Urban Renewal Agency the authority to spend public money. That's through the appropriations process. It is a financial plan. It's an annual just a one-year financial plan, and it's based entirely upon estimates of revenues and expenditures. It is what we use to control internally an element that's required by our auditors to make sure that we have fiscal accountability, and it's a piece of internal controls to reduce risk. It's also a policy document. It essentially helps to fund both the plans and the priorities of both the City Council and the Urban Renewal Agency. And it's a way for this group, the City Council and the Urban Renewal Agency Board, to share this process to the public. It's also a way to communicate the goals, the plans, projects. Staff puts together the proposed budget. That's what we're going to be talking about today. That's a multi-month kind of process. Departments work on that. And that kind of flows up through to the city manager's office. We have meetings and discuss in order to prepare what you are reviewing tonight. The budget committee reviews that proposed budget, and the goal through this process is for the budget committee to approve the budget, and then it gets referred to the city council and the Urban Renewal Agency for adoption. Those meetings for the City Council and the Urban Renewal Agency Board are, again, public meetings, and those will be held in June, and the intent with those meetings is to adopt the budget. This budget is, once adopted, is our legal guidelines for the next year. It gives us appropriation spending authority, and it also outlines the taxes that will be levied, the type of taxes that we will levy. So, a little background on the Budget Committee. ORS requires that there is an equal number of citizens who sit on the committee as there are elected officials. So we have a 14-member committee. Thank you to those who are here representing the community as a citizen. It's a big task. The budget's a fairly large document, so for you to be able to find time in your busy lives to step in and review that and come here and kind of help us through the process, it's greatly appreciated. So the roles of the Budget Committee, we're tonight going to listen to the budget message. That's a piece of ORS. We have to do a summary kind of the annual budget. We're going to hold a public meeting so that if there are anybody in the public who has any comments, we will take those. We will review and discuss the proposed budget. You have the opportunity to make any revisions. The goal being we're going to approve that budget, and each tax rate or dollar amount related to levy should be approved. So budget structure. So both of the budgets for the city and the Urban Renewal Agency are organized by funds. Fund is, it's a set of accounts. They're self-balancing, and that's where we, for budget purposes, record the estimated resources and expenditures, but for, actual is the same thing. We're recording all of the actual revenues and expenditures. And it also allows us to record by specific types of activities or objectives. And maybe more for the public, the fund, from maybe a more generalized kind of standpoint, the fund is like a little small business. So we have several small little independent businesses within the city and urban renewal budgets. All resources and expenditures must be budgeted to the best of our knowledge. It has to balance. I know we hear that often, like getting a balance. It's got a balance. You'll find that it does. And then these are estimates, but we are doing them in good faith. So this is just an example just to show when we talk about how funds must balance, revenues should equal expenditures. We can't have more expenses than we have revenues. The types of funds that are available for use in local budget law: general fund. Every municipality has a general fund. That's where your operations, your regular daily operations, are ran out of. Enterprise funds. The city has a couple of enterprise funds, our water quality fund and our building code fund. Enterprise funds are very much like a business. They need to be self-sustaining, so whatever it costs to provide that service, the resources need to be calibrated to cover the costs of that service. There are special revenue funds. Those are exactly what they say. There's a very specific revenue source that has to be dedicated for a use, and so those are separated out into a special revenue fund. Just a couple of examples of that is our transportation fund. That's our streets kind of department, and then the library. There are capital improvement funds. Those are kind of big ticket items, purchases, long-lived kind of items. Debt service funds, that's where you're repaying debt, your obligations. And then reserve funds, it's kind of your savings accounts if you're saving for, long-term kind of things. So the funds in the city's budget, there are 15 active funds. Some of you may remember in several years ago, we had quite a number more than that. Over the last few years, we've been reducing that based on our auditor's recommendations, kind of combining like funds. So we have operating operating budgets, we have debt service, capital improvement, and reserves. Fund structure, we've talked about this already a little bit, but you'll see both resources and expenditures shown. And expenditures are split down into different sections. Those categories are personnel services, materials and services, capital outlay, debt service, transfers, contingency, reserved, and unappropriated. And those are outlined in ORS. And this is just an example of what that looks like. Personal services, materials and services. You're going to see this throughout. If they're relevant for a fund, you'll see each of these. And then just overview of what that budget document looks like. There's several columns on the document. We are required by local budget law to show 2 fiscal years audited amounts. Those are on the far left of the page. And then you will see in the next column over is the current year's adopted budget. And you may remember last year, I didn't get this updated, but last year there was a discussion like it's really hard to sit at this table and understand what we're proposing in relation to what we've done this year. So you'll see that there's a new column added. It's not a requirement of ORS, but it is beneficial for you to be able to see that. There's a year-to-date through March 31st added to that. So that's what we've actually received or spent year-to-date in this fiscal year in comparison to the adopted budget. Those are all on the left side before the center where the GL account number and name is at. And then as you move to the right side, there will be 3 columns on the right side, which will be the proposed, the approved, and the adopted. We're looking at the proposed tonight. Once we finish that process, and if you guys choose to approve, we'll create that other column. That's what will go to the council and the board. So just an example of what that looks like. Those actual columns are audited numbers. And then into the current years, both adopted and actual, and then the proposed. And we will, like I said, we will be adding those last 2 columns as we work through the process. Property taxes. Oregon law allows local governments to levy 3 types of property taxes. The permanent rate levy, most municipalities have that. That was established, I should know this, it's, I think, measure 5. I don't think it was 50, but I think it was 5. At that time, every municipality got a permanent rate. Before that time, we got to budget what we needed, and so property taxes changed every year. You didn't know what your property taxes were because it was based on what was to be budgeted. So at that point, everybody got a permanent rate. And, well, not everyone, but entities in place at that time got a permanent rate. That's what funds the general fund, essentially. You can also have a general obligation bond levy, and that's usually like a big purchase. You go out to the voters to ask for support of a large item kind of purchase. For us, what we have is the fire station on Elrod, which is nearing its payoff point. And then local option, there's 2 versions under local option. You can do a 5-year local option, which is like operational. Example, we haven't done this in my time here, but North Bend did a local option for their pool, to keep their pool open, 5-year local option levy. You could also do a 10-year capital local option, so it's a little bit smaller than a general obligation levy. We only use those first 2 options. So permanent rate, the city's permanent rate is 6.3643 per thousand. Oopsie, sorry. I must have hit a bunch of buttons. I would question whether or not that got updated. Roughly 7 million, I think it's 7.5 actually in the budget, I could be wrong, but is estimated to be collected in fiscal 26. That's what we would use to fund, in the general fund, the city operations. And then the general obligation bond levy, that's for the fire station, which was in May approved by the 2008 was approved by the voters for $6.9 million. We're estimating just under $500,000 for collections to be able to make that debt service payment in this year. And just as a reminder, the council in fiscal 21 made a decision, approved us to refinance that debt. We reduced it by about $800,000 due to savings and interest, and it also reduced the repayment. So we have about a year and a half less with that refinance. Whoops, going the wrong way again. Back to a little bit more on property taxes. There are limitations on collection. So Measure 5 also established the $10 per assessed value. So every property owner for general government pays no more than $10 per thousand of assessed value. And that $10 is shared with all the taxing districts outside of schools. Schools are a separate bucket from that. If it's over, if all of our combined tax rates are over $10,
Well, it should be. Let me see. Let me see if they.
Benetti, there we go.
yeah, okay. If it's over $10, the combined rates are over $10, you actually go into compression because we have to get it underneath that $10. So we all lose a little bit. And then Measure 50, which was passed in 1997, put in that no more than 3% annual growth for assessed value. Some background on our basis of accounting. We have to speak to what our basis of accounting in the budget process. The city uses a modified accrual basis of accounting for budgetary purposes. And so that just means that we're recognizing our revenues as soon as they are measurable and available. And what does that mean? Available is when we receive them in a time period in which we can pay current expenses, liabilities. For us, that's a 60-day period following year end. That's what we considered available. So a little bit on the budget committee process. These meetings are subject to public meeting law, which means we noticed this. It's open to the public. You can participate either online or in person. We take public comments. Quorum is required to conduct the business at this meeting. We are a 14-member body, and so we need at least 8 folks in attendance. We've checked that box. This committee can ask for additional information if we're working through something and it's taking a little bit of time and we want to come back to that. That process is a red line process. You can ask to red line and we will come back to those as we work through the rest. And then the majority of this committee is required to take action. So just a recap, we are reviewing the proposed budget with the goal of approval. Your approval in that last box, apologies for that, it does say it's going to go to council for adoption. Your role is the approval process. And that ends the PowerPoint. So the next thing on our agenda is an election of officers. So at this point, I would take a motion for, we need a chair.
I have a motion for a chair.
Okay.
I have a motion, Councilor Stevenson be chair of the Budget Committee if she's willing.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Having a motion and a second, are there any questions, discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. So now I have the opportunity to pass the baton.
Okay, I would call for a motion for a vice chair.
I move that we elect Vice Chair Troy Cribbins.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lucinda. All in favor?
Aye.
I guess I should have asked for discussion, huh? Motion carries. And I would entertain a motion for a secretary.
I'll make a motion for Brenda to serve as secretary. Sorry, Brenda.
I was just getting ready to do that. Second.
Okay, in a second?
I did second.
Oh, thanks, Stephanie. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we move into public comment. Christine, will you grab that? I'm going to read this. The public comment period is intended for the public to share ideas and concerns. It is not intended for an interactive discussion with council. There may be opportunities for public comments during specific agenda items that require a public hearing. Members of the public are requested to confine their remarks to questions or issues under discussion during this time. During any designated comment period, individuals shall not engage in personal attacks, shall not impugn the motives of any speaker, and shall at all times while in session conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. No person shall make personal, impertinent, slanderous, or unauthorized remarks or become boisterous while addressing the council.
So I don't have any public comment requests for the URA, but I do for council, so I didn't know if you, or city. We have a section for city. So I don't have any.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving into the presentation of budget message by Budget Officer Nicole.
Christine's one-man band, so one moment. One-person band, maybe that's more comfortable.
Chair Stevenson, did I understand that there is no public comment?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to do kind of a quick run through of the urban renewal budget when I turn this on. All right, here we go. Okay, so Urban Renewal Agency's purpose. The intent of an urban renewal agency is to improve specific areas of a city that are poorly or developed or underdeveloped, and to eliminate blight, which in the end is intended to encourage economic development. So we kind of look at that as without urban renewal, it is intended to make something happen which would maybe not otherwise be able to happen. So for urban renewal, revenue that we receive to carry out the activities is from tax incremental funds. And those are determined when the urban renewal agency is set up, the district is set up. The total of the tax rates times assessed value gets to the taxing district revenue. At that point, when you're setting it up, it becomes a frozen tax base. And that tax below the base is still collected and provided to the districts. The tax, the assessed value, the growth above that frozen base is what is provided to the urban renewal agency to undergo the activities. So for a taxpayer, your tax is the same regardless of whether an urban renewal is in existence or not. It's the overlapping taxing districts which are foregoing that increased assessed value. The property tax or the property owner pays the regular amount they would normally do. Accounting structure, we've kind of talked a little bit about this maybe with city, but for the urban renewal agency, we have two districts, the downtown district and the Empire district. And it is organized into three funds. Each district has three funds. The special revenue fund is where the property taxes are received. The bond fund is where we record the repayment of outstanding debt. And then the capital project fund, that's like where all the meat is. That's where all the fun stuff is. Everything we're going to fund for projects is within that. So this is just a brief discussion of the things that are pretty typical for use of urban renewal resources. You can use it to acquire property, and that can be a building that's maybe in disrepair or maybe a vacant lot, and you're intended for redevelopment. Generally speaking, you acquire and you prepare it for redevelopment and dispose of it through sale. Sometimes that requires relocation of occupants. That's within urban renewal. And you can do public improvements, streets, streetscapes, utilities, and then site improvements, which can be buildings, parks, parking lots. And then you can also support private property improvements. Eligible expenses are operational expenses directly related to operating the urban renewal agency or the projects, and those can be related to administration, planning, legal, financial, so the finance department. The interesting thing about urban renewal agencies is that they operate essentially in a state of debt. Tax increment revenues can be used to pay principal and interest. That's the purpose of collecting those. So you're always in a state of debt in urban renewal, and we have a couple of different types of debt that we use to work to undergo the projects in our two districts. We use both long-term and short-term. Long-term is usually related to doing a large project. So, for example, 4th Street, the improvements, the traffic signals on 4th Street, all of the paving, sidewalks, flashing beacons, those kinds of things. That was a large project. We actually went out to the market and sold bonds in order to do that. But you can also do short-term, which is du jour, also known as du jour financing. And how we handle that is a short-term loan between the urban renewal agency and the city. Again, we're trying to clear all of the tax increment via a debt repayment. So each year, the du jour is essentially the balance of whatever the tax increment coming in and any long-term debt we're paying for. The difference is what we do a du jour loan for. So the downtown district has two debt issuances. There was in fiscal 19, $3.3 million, which supported the essentially the traffic signal railroad crossings at Coos Bay Village, all of the safety kind of pieces there for that access point. We also had a little bit of money used towards the Front Street, which is now the Front Street parking lot, but it was the cleanup of that old scrap yard. And then we did some streetscape work. This is the loan. We did refinance this loan in fiscal 21 along with the GO bond loan for the fire station. Had a little bit less savings there, $400,000 savings, and a shortened of almost a full year savings off of the repayment schedule. And then in fiscal 20, the downtown district got a $3.4 million bond for 4th Street. And so that was essentially the work that happened from commercial through, Donnelly, I think, down right before the fire station. And in the Empire District, same two debt issuance out there. In fiscal 18, the district secured a $1.45 million bond for purchasing the Ocean Boulevard property site. It's the lot that is adjacent to the Graham dealership. At the time, that was potentially being investigated for the library, potential library site. And then also, it helped fund the replacement of the Newmark Avenue seawall, which was necessary. I'm not going to probably be able to speak enough to that, but safety, the seawall was deteriorating, so it needed to be replaced. That one will be paid off in fiscal 27. And the second issuance is fiscal 19, $2.85 million bond for road improvements in Empire area, and that one will be repaid in full in 2028. So just a quick overview of the capital project fund. So in the downtown district, there is $4.2 million, which would help to do, these are just some summaries of what's in there this year. Planned for some Front Street blueprint work, continuing the work on Front Street. Pedestrian, we'll probably finish design and some pedestrian improvements there. Some general Capitol Street improvements. We also usually have sidewalk improvements each year for the downtown in there. Same for parking lots. I think a couple years ago it was decided that we have set aside each year some dollars for parking lot improvements. Same for boardwalk, that each year we're putting something aside to be working towards improving the boardwalk. And then last year, we're following up again this year, but last year was the first year that there was a decision to kind of pull together a larger amount of money that might help in building acquisition and redevelopment for some of the buildings in the downtown area, which are maybe not in use or in highest and best use. So we're still recommending that in this year. And then also the business improvement program. This is related to, it used to be known as the facade program. It was renamed to the improvement program, adding some dollars in there. City Hall upgrades, there is the largest portion of this, I believe, is related to the HVAC system, which is extremely outdated and it actually barely works. Which is problematic for us specifically for the server room. Talk about this later, but you may know that the city of Coos Bay took on full dispatch services for the county, and so we have a pretty significant responsibility to maintain data storage standards. So that's our biggest concern, really, is making sure that our server room is, obviously we want our folks to be comfortable in their workspaces, but for sure we need the server room managed. And then every year there's always a balancing point of the difference between the estimated revenues coming in and the identified projects. And so we put those just kind of in a capital projects bucket that's both in downtown and urban renewal, an amount yet to be determined for projects. So in Empire area, there's $2.3 million proposed, and that includes some capital and street improvement projects. We'll continue the work for the Newmark and Wall parking lot. You may remember in this year we took down the old Franco building there, which was donated to the city to the Urban Renewal Agency from Dutch Brothers. We will continue work on the Empire Blueprint, which was finalized in this year, so we'll start some projects there. We are going to recommend improvement program dollars. As in downtown, still going to recommend setting aside some dollars for the building acquisition and redevelopment. And then the undetermined projects bucket for Empire, some money in there as well. The downtown district has an option for a special levy. And the special levy is related to Measure 50. When Measure 50 was put in place, if there was a variance from the tax increment at that time, that there could have been more taxes provided to the Urban Renewal Agency, and you had a district in place already, you had available to you a special levy option. We have been using this for as long as I have been here, and it has been dedicated towards street improvements in the downtown area. And we look at this year to year, but it's generally about 28% is what we levy, and that keeps us as close as possible to not going into compression. So any more than that, and it'll impact everyone. So we watch that kind of closely. So we're recommending that in this next year as well. That just speaks a little bit more about that. And so we're proposing that in this year, a little under 600,000 is estimated to be received. And that is the end of the review of the urban renewal budget.
Thank you. I also want to take a moment and let everyone know that Mayor Benetti has joined, and then you can see that Councilor Cribbins has also joined the meeting. Okay, we're going to dive in. That was a great presentation, so should give us a good place to go with this packet. So we're going to start on page 51 if you're looking on your computer, and page 6 if you're looking at the packet. Urban renewal growth. So you can see on the far left column, this is our frozen tax base, 50 million downtown, 23 million Empire. Current estimated values of 112 million for downtown, 74 million for Empire, with downtown doubling its tax base over the life of the district, and Empire more than tripling its tax base. You can see the estimated property taxes here. I'm going to pause after each page, but we're just going to keep flowing. So please, this is meant to be interactive, so please raise your hand or just go ahead and come off mute as you have questions or comments. Okay, page 7 or page 52 online. This is our outstanding debt. Yes?
Why interest only on those columns there, the Empire and Downtown series? I don't understand the difference.
Generally speaking, our debt issuance have like a 6-month interest payment and then a 6-month interest and principal payment. That's just the structure of how it is. Okay. So one payment is just interest. Yeah.
Okay.
Great question. Okay, moving to page 8. This is our summary of resources. You can track the actuals on the far left column, so our actual audited. As Nicole pointed out, that 4th column is our actuals to date, so through 3/31/25, and then you have our the proposed budget on the far right side.
I just want to just quickly thank you for doing the actuals. I really look forward to that.
Yeah, I appreciate that thought. You know, we get used to looking at this, and so it is a tool that's really important. Those of us who are inside, we kind of know what the numbers are, but
right,
yeah.
we didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Great transparency. Thanks for suggesting that. Okay, moving to page 9. This is our summary of expenditures. Page 10, our Downtown Special Revenue Fund, Fund 51. This special levy has historically been dedicated to street improvements. Okay, moving to page 11. The Empire Special Revenue Fund. Moving to page 12, you can see this is the Downtown Bond Fund. Nicole just went through all of this in the presentation. You can see the du jour, the principal and interest for downtown, reserve for future expenditures. Moving to page 13. This is the Empire Bond Fund. Again, same thing. This was just reviewed in the budget presentation. Okay, page 14, Downtown Capital Projects. Here, again, as Nicole went over this, but just as a reminder, this is insurance proceeds related to the Front Street parking lots, increased interest in improvement grants, annual amounts for the Front Street blueprint efforts, sidewalks, moving into page 15, sorry, annual amounts included for the Front Street blueprint efforts, sidewalks, street infrastructure, boardwalk upgrades, and parking lot improvements. I'll just point out a couple of things. The building acquisition redevelopment, that's specifically to support dealing with blight. The street infrastructure, $750,000. GL, last four digits, 3124. That's the special levy debt payment. GL, last four digits, 3123 is the balancing point. I'm going to pause for questions on this page. This one's meaty.
Yes.
Yes.
The boardwalk. I want to revisit the boardwalk again. Last year, at this time, we had $100,000 in the boardwalk fund from that year that hadn't been spent, and then we added $200,000 last year. I don't know if that $50,000 from last year got spent, but $3,000 already, that's not a lot out of the $250,000.
Yeah, and I would have to check on, I know we replaced the bulkhead, a lot of the bulkheads have
Well,
been.
some of the bulkhead, there's a
yeah,
lot of bulkhead that's still
to
rotten.
still go. So
Absolutely.
I
it
think
is.
that's, going to be a portion of those dollars.
I just want to say that this is the first place that many tourists see when they come to our town, and I'm embarrassed. I walk there almost every day, and that boardwalk is not in very good shape. And I'm very disappointed that in the last year, very little has happened. So, my comment.
Brenda, it's Lucinda online. I agree with you that there's so much more that needs to be done. This is a passion location for me too, for that very same reason. I do know, I don't think all the expenses are in here. The city did a great job of writing a grant, so you don't see expenses here, and got a grant from Travel Oregon to put new signage up along the boardwalk. So we're gonna have some really nice signage. There'll be signage. All the interpretive panels have been changed. So there is work that is being done. I will tell you, yes, there's definitely more work to be done, but what they have done is they've been successful in getting grants. And I will tell you that Nicole hears probably more about the boardwalk from Mayor Benetti and myself on a consistent basis. And I think right now it looks pretty nice. I mean, we've done a good job of trimming down the grass, and so more work to do, but I appreciate your comments and I appreciate your passion about it, because you're right. It's one of the first places we see, and there's clearly more work to be done.
Yeah, Chair Stevens, to follow up with Lucinda and the other comments, I went down there the other day, and there's 38 bulkhead pieces that have been replaced. There's more that needs to be done, and definitely a lot more on that boardwalk. I mean, I don't know what the cost would be to really do what's necessary. I don't know if we have enough money that we're able to do it, so we have to kind of piecemeal it. And I definitely agree. It's the piece that people and visitors see it, and I walk it all the time also, so.
So I guess my question would be, is there any way that citizens can be involved in that process more than they are? Like, there's the library, Friends of the Library, Friends of Shore Acres. I know Tom Leahy has suggested, to me, Friends of the Boardwalk. I mean, would that be a possibility?
Well, this is Joe. I definitely think that's something that's possible. It worked for the swimming pool. We were able to raise funds because some citizens wanted to put some money in and do that. And I think there's also some things that can be done like pressure wash. I mean, I don't know if we have some liability by doing that, but I don't know why some visitors citizens can't get down there and help clean it. I mean, I know we do it occasionally, but there's always pigeon stuff that we have to deal with and some other things, and it could be cleaned. And so I don't know why that can't be done. I know when we did the downtown, I was blowing leaves, so I don't know why we can't pressure wash, so.
Okay, great comments. Thanks, everyone. Anything else on page 15? Okay, moving into page 16, Empire Capital Project Fund. Similar increased improvement program interest to fund, moving into page 17, which is the meat of the Empire Capital Project Fund. You'll see there is, as Nicole listed in her presentation, funding for the Empire Blueprint Plan that was just approved by the council. The improvement program, this is the program where businesses can submit requests for funds to support improvements. We just had one this week in Empire. The GL account number, last four digits, 3123, that's the balancing point. The $250,000 is the, as Nicole mentioned, the Dutch Bros donated lot, and then the $250,000 last line is to support blighted buildings.
So again, I'm looking at, the expenditures to date don't reflect the amount that was budgeted. I mean, I know there's a delay, but we have $500,000 budgeted for the Empire Street improvement, $131 spent. So that's a big difference.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any feedback, but we don't typically do street projects through the winter. And I'm not sure if we have a spring Empire, I don't remember if we have spring Empire streets
Doesn't the
project.
budget run July through June? Or, well, through June?
Yeah.
July 1 through June 30th.
Right, so you had all summer and the fall. I mean, it wasn't just the winter.
Sure. And this is one, I guess there's a lot of areas and there's projects that are happening, and whether or not they happened in this specific, I was just wondering if we had some spring street projects that were planned that are going to be
I don't know,
started.
I'm just looking at all of these.
We actually don't. I think this money was, I could be wrong, but I think this money was allocated to improvements associated with the Front Street Blueprint. So that recently got, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Empire.
The Empire
It just
Blueprint.
got approved.
It just got approved. So that was running a little bit, not too far off schedule, but I think that's why you're not seeing money spent.
Yeah.
Because we were waiting for the blueprint to be
We
completed.
have to do
before we were
planning
making
first
the
before we can
improvements.
move to design.
Yes, yep. Mhm.
So.
Great.
And the roundabout, just to kind of speak to that, that one kind of got put on the shelf for just right now. The focus had been, because we thought there would be some development in those undeveloped areas along the waterfront there, so.
And the building acquisition, that was the one that Dutch Brothers donated? Or
Well,
was
that
a
one,
different
no, that's the Newmark and Wall parking lot. That's the
Okay.
project there. And we actually did a lot of that building tear down in-house, so there
Right.
wasn't as much
Oh, good.
expense there. And then the building acquisition redevelopment, the targeted building in Empire that was kind of the focus, just everyone hopefully remembers
Gus's?
Gussie's as our reference point. The property owner actually came in and took care of
Oh,
it,
I
so
was
we didn't
wondering if
have.
you guys did it.
No,
Oh.
no.
Okay.
Okay, great. That concludes the urban renewal budget review. There are 3 separate required motions for the proposed budget for fiscal year 25 through 26. If there are no other questions about the budget, I would entertain the first motion.
Is that option 1?
Yep.
Just to clarify, these are 3 separate motions for A, B, and C.
Yes.
I move we select option 1.
Which is?
I'm
So
sorry,
there-
we have to,
All
we
3
have
of
to
them.
motion on all 3.
On
The-
all
The
3.
first is to, so the first motion that I would accept is to approve option 1 pursuant to ORS 457.4352A, which is the taxing authority.
Chair, I have a motion.
Great.
I would like to make a motion to approve selecting option 1 pursuant to ORS 457-4352A as the method used to collect urban renewal property taxes.
Thank you. Troy made the motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Brenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I would,
Chair,
yes,
may I?
please.
So for the Public Budget Committee, you are perfectly welcome to chime in, add. If you don't understand it, ask a question. This needs to be verbal. I don't want it to feel like we're just chugging through this, motioning it and pushing it forward. If there's something you need clarification on, please feel comfortable to pipe in and ask for that.
You
Is
can
that fair,
also,
Chair?
you can also make motions and.
And you can also make motions in second.
So next, I would approve a motion imposing the division of taxes and special levy option taxes, which gives us the authority for the levy.
I'll make a motion to approve imposing the Urban Renewal Agency's maximum 100% amount from the Division of Taxes and to impose the special levy option in the downtown plan area limited to 28%.
Thank you, Counselor DeNovo. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rick. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. I would next accept a motion to approve the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget. Just as a note, this is what then will go to the Urban Renewal Agency for adoption at the June 3rd meeting.
Can I just say I so move?
Yes? Thank you, Brenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Troy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, I am going to adjourn the Urban Renewal Budget meeting. We will come back in just a couple of minutes. You don't need to, nope, okay. We're just going to keep moving forward then. Does anybody need a break for a second? We're good. Okay, let's keep moving forward. Back to you, Nicole.
Yes, it gets thrown back to my way. I will open the City of Coos Bay Budget Committee meeting. The first item on agenda is the election of officers. I would accept a motion for the position of Budget Committee Chair.
If I may, I would like to make a motion to have Councillor Stevenson be the chair of that committee as well.
Okay.
If she's
Motion
willing.
received. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, McKinley. Second received. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Your turn.
Okay, I would accept a motion for a vice chair of the Coos Bay Budget Committee.
I'll make a motion for McKinley to be vice chair of the Budget Committee.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Troy. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And I would accept a motion for a secretary.
If I may, Chair Stevens, maybe a small explanation of what the duties of the secretary.
You know, if the chair and the vice chair can't be here, then the secretary will step in.
But since they're here, you're good.
And
I'll make a motion for Troy Cribbins to be secretary.
Thank you, Lucinda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, that was not cool.
Notice how I didn't ask.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Okay, now back to you, Nicole, for the presentation.
Maybe public comments.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I will read this again. The public comment period is intended for the public to share ideas and concerns. It is not intended for an interactive discussion with council. There may be opportunities for public comments during specific agenda items that require the public hearing. Members of the public are requested to confine their remarks to questions or issues under discussion during this time. During any designated comment period, individuals shall not engage in personal attacks, shall not impugn the motives of the speaker, and shall at all times while in session conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. No person shall make personal, impertinent, slanderous, or unauthorized remarks or become boisterous while addressing the council. And I have Jamie Faraday first. If you could just state your name and then.
Jamie Faraday. I live in Coos Bay. I'm here representing the Mingus Park Pool Board, which is a nonprofit board that helps run the city's owned pool. It's a very popular pool, as you know. It has a new boiler that the community stepped up to pay for, along with the Energy Trust help. And we now have a new boiler, efficient boiler, that's using less gas and keeps the pool at a constant temperature. And we also got extra funds through the call out to the community. So we do have a rainy day fund. I heard you loud and clear, Troy, at the city council that we should do so. And I also want to mention that we really appreciate the efforts that the city has budgeted for the energy that goes into the system. But we are working on that to lower actually the cost of energy, because we're now with Energy Trust doing what's called a strategic energy management. I'm on that team with the city. That was one of my second careers as an energy analyst. So we are going to make improvements on at least 3 buildings. The pool house is one of them. So I expect, and we will know after about a year, hopefully, because the Energy Trust has taken down the baseline data of each building, and they're going to be monitoring and incentivizing throughout this whole process our efforts to make our buildings more efficient. So thank you for
Excellent.
supporting the pool.
Thank you.
Encourage you to do so for at least another year, and we'll reduce the cost even more.
Excellent. Thank you. Tom Leahy.
Hi, my name's Tom Leahy. I've lived in Coos Bay since 1974. I came to visit for a year, and still here half a century later. And as many of you know, one of my passions are boats and the tall ships that come in, which we're rebuilding after COVID-19 kind of decimated a lot of things. And I'm here to speak about the boardwalk and the moorage down on the boardwalk. And I likened it to your front porch. And if you have a front porch, I know you like to take good care of it, and when company comes, it looks impeccable. And that's what I'd like to see the boardwalk become. And in following the Parks Commission and Friends of Mingus Park Pool, this isn't part of the Budget Committee, it's also part of the City Council decisions, I suppose, but to have Friends of the Boardwalk. And whatever money we can put into maintaining what we have so it doesn't get more decrepit, I'd appreciate any thoughts about what we can do in order to keep that asset that we have and continue to improve it with better moorage and inviting more people to come to visit coming by Coos Bay that come from San Francisco and Sausalito up north. We need to have them visit here. And in order to do that, we need to have other improvements made at the boardwalk. So please consider that in your important decisions for our entire city. And thank you for participating in this process. Where does this go?
Next is Doug Eberlein. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Doug Eberlein. I've been on the Mingus Park Pool Board since '05, been president since '07. Don't ask me why I'm still president. Should be a 2-term limit, like our Constitution. But it's a facility that is more than just city. We have people that come from Bandon, Coquille, Roseburg to utilize that pool year-round. And Jamie spoke about the new boiler, and that was really something to see the local citizens and patrons step up for $80,000 and put a new one in. And this might look like a bribe, but it's not. It's a dream. We started doing these swim caps about 2 months ago. It says it's cool to be at the pool, and Mingus Park Pool was established in 1949, and it's run continuous ever since, except for maintenance shutdowns. So I'm not greasing palms here, but like I said, it's a dream. Come by anytime. Stephanie, thank you for being on the board. You were on the board, I think, when I first came on. And then we had Roger Craddock, and now we've got Mike Schaefer representing the city. And it's always good to have those folks with us on the board. It's so important. I had a 22-second video, but it was too big to upload to everybody see. But I walk my dog every morning, usually before I swim. And during these early springtime, we have school lessons. And Kathy did a great presentation with the board members back in November. And to watch these kids in every grade go through those programs and learn how to swim, and water safety is so important for anybody growing up in this area. So my dream is to continue that every child that goes to Coos Bay School District learns water safety. My other dream is that everybody that comes to swim laps wears those friggin' caps. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's my dream that everyone who got a hat tonight has to wear it the rest of the night.
Oh, and if I missed anybody that needs to get a cap, stop by the pool. Those are fundraisers that we started.
Are there any other public comments? Okay, thanks very much for being here. We're going to move into the presentation of budget message by Budget Officer Nicole.
Yes, we're going to get it up. Again, it's Christine's doing all the things, so be just a moment.
While we wait, I would like to say thank you to the pool for doing the free swim this summer for the kids.
All right, so similar to the Urban Renewal Agency, this is just kind of a summary to kind of walk through, get us prepped to discuss the city budget. So just a little bit of background on the process by which it's pulled together. So we follow the following kind of policy practices in preparation of putting the proposed budget together. So our revenue estimates are conservative. Expenditure estimates based upon actual experience and incremental increases. I think when the team talks about their budgets, they'll tell you they didn't get incremental increases as much as we might have in the past. If you haven't seen already, you'll see that things are pretty tight. So we attempt to keep reserves at funding levels that are in accordance to generally accepted accounting practices, and to provide us with some sufficient cash carryover to meet our operational needs until our tax revenues are just the biggest piece there come in November. Again, if you've had some time to review this in any level, you'll notice that that's it's not in the place where we would want it to be in this upcoming fiscal year. Capital equipment and vehicles, the goal is to be keeping them maintained or replaced so that they are in good working order. Those items, if in good working order, are save us operational costs. If you keep your vehicles in great order, you're going to save on maintenance, your gas costs, all those kinds of things. So that's the goal. And again, reminder, it's a 1-year budget, but we do try to look at it from a multi-year approach. So, what we spend in this next fiscal year impacts future fiscal years. So for the 25-26 proposed budget for the city, the total, it's a little over $80 million budget for the city of Coos Bay. That includes some pretty significant amounts in capital improvements for both the water quality, $19 million, and a little over $3 million for street capital improvements. It's going to walk into a little bit on background on the different funds. So again, we talked about the types of funds that the city budget has: operating funds, debt service funds, capital funds, and reserve funds. And that just kind of shows you the pieces of the pie that they take up of that $80 million. Operating funds, a list of those there, the general fund being the largest at $19 million. And we identify water quality and building codes as enterprise funds, and so that's the type of fund they are, but they are really what operates the day-to-day activities of those two areas. We have just the one debt service fund, the general obligation bond fund, which again is repayment on the fire station, the main fire station. Capital improvement funds, we've got 3 there. One, it's very specific to our water quality, our wastewater system. That's the city's largest asset, so it has its own capital improvement fund. We also have just a general capital improvement fund, and then a SDC fund, a system development charge, that's required to be separated out, and it's just related to it's historic. We currently do not have any SDCs in the city of Coos Bay, but we still have to maintain that data, and there's dollars there, so we budget that every year. Reserve fund, we have 3 reserve funds, and that's super small. Apologize for that. Rainy day fund, the fire equipment replacement fund, and I don't know if I can see what that last one says. Jurisdictional exchange, I think. That is the, I don't remember, 2014, I think. ODOT kind of went across the state, and they turned over their state highways to the municipalities that those highways were within. And at that time, they also turned over an amount of money they believed that would support the ongoing maintenance of that. So we have that separated out. We only are allowed to spend for regular kind of maintenance and repairs the interest earned on that. The bulk of the original dollars received from ODOT requires, I believe, voter approval for expenditure. This is just a discussion on carryover balance, just seeing the trends, revenues, and expenses. So the top two lines are the revenues and expenses to kind of see how close that those kind of just stay in a line, which impacts our carryover. If we're getting just enough money and we're spending it as we're getting it, it reduces our ability to increase our carryover year over year. So you can kind of see the trend of what the carryover's been doing. This is specific just to the general fund. So some challenges maybe change that next year to opportunities, like to rethink. It's a positive kind of focus, but I feel like that's an old number as well for employees. I feel like we're closer to 150 right now, but the personnel expenses are about 45% of the operating budget. And remember, operating budget is just that group of funds that doesn't include our capital debt and reserve, just the operating funds. And of that, 58% is salaries, 42% is benefits. Benefits include insurances, so health, long-term disability, workers' comp, unemployment, that sorts of things. It also includes PERS contribution, and then the employer match for Social Security, Medicare. There is cost of living increases that are included in this budget, and those are based upon the collective bargaining agreements that we have with our 3 represented employee groups. That's the Coos Bay Police Officers Association, the International Association of Firefighters, and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. That's kind of everybody else outside of the 2 public safety groups. Just quickly, PERS is estimated to cost us in this next fiscal year $4.8 million, and insurance $3.4 million across the city. The insurance for this is just employee insurance costs. We used about a 10% estimation in increase for this year. I think that's just thanks for being here, and we're going to talk about some stuff for the budget. So, okay, here we go.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm actually going to start us on page 40 in your printed packet, which is page 60 if you're looking online. This is to really underscore the very tight carry forward margins that that Nicole spoke about here. So if you look at the GL account numbers towards the bottom, 6001 and 6002 are contingency. We are at a 0 contingency moving into fiscal year 25-26. Printed page 40, and if you're looking online, it's page 60. I'll give just a second to get there. So again, towards the bottom, 4th line up, GL account 6001, contingency, we have 0 here. And the unappropriated ending fund balance, just slightly over $171,000, which is, as you can see, down $100,000 contingency from what we adopted in 24-25. And then for the unappropriated ending fund balance in 24-25, we had just over $784,000. So this is not ideal. This does not leave any room for error, which I don't know if you know how cities work, but not because of the staff or intentions, but things come up. So with that knowledge, we are proposing a budget that gets, the staff are proposing a budget that gets us through fiscal year 26, knowing that the budget revenue has been prepared conservatively with expenses being prepared slightly high, hoping that there's a balance to get us to some additional carry forwards. But as we're going through this, we may want to consider some cuts to help support those budget lines. Several department heads have some staffing changes that could be implemented, and there has been close scrutiny of salary schedules, although I know our very gracious, generous city manager has proposed a reduced wage, which I hope we all decide to not accept. Okay, any comments before we move back to the beginning?
Just an overall question. Last year, there was, I believe you said you had hired a grant writer.
Yes, we
And
do have a grant
will
writer
we
on
be-
staff.
We will be able to see and hear?
Yes, we will.
The grants, because I wasn't able to find it. So somebody help me when we get there.
So we did that January 1st. So just recently have someone on a transition from another position here at the city. So they were a city employee, but they're specifically January 1 became focused on grants.
Well, when we were here last year, I thought you said you had one hired. Or
We
were in the
had a
process of
staff
hiring.
member who was helping. We had a consultant who was doing grant work for us. We didn't find much success with that. So we had a staff member who was kind of filling in the gaps with that grant consultant, and we've now kind of
Moved her
transitioned
into-
that
okay.
person into really focusing on grant writing for us.
Good, thank you.
I will just add, though, there's no way to make up for the loss of federal funds or to make up for the impact that PERS has on this budget.
Yeah, Chair Stevens. I just
Sorry,
wanted-
Mayor, I can't, we can't hear you. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, try again.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mayor Benetti.
As can I.
So, sorry, online team, give us just a minute. It shouldn't be on this one, though. Mayor Benetti, could you try again?
Can you hear me?
No,
Okay.
just one moment. This is when we need that technical difficulty music to come in, right?
We had some.
Do you want to sing, Counselor Kilmer?
You don't want me to.
Christine, it says your browser is preventing access to your microphone.
So that's just on your particular,
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't see anything irregular.
Did one of the other people online, we've been able to hear Lucinda. Can we still hear you, Lucinda?
Can you hear me?
No, okay.
No.
You can hear us though, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, this is a great chance. We're going to take just a 3-minute break. We're going to come right back. I have to. So. Hold that thought.
says that.
Oh, that's right.
And it has been for 10 years. And that was some always kind of her frustration, is that's a great program, they do great things, but sometimes they focus really heavy on Portland and the surrounding areas. And forget that 3/4 of geographic of the state is rural. And that's meant to help people offset those things.
Yeah, they realize that, but they're moving slowly.
Yeah.
And this group seems to be just regional folks. To help us with replacing lights.
Right. Right. The business came in. The business came in, electricians came in, switched out all the lights. Electricians came in, switched out all the lights.
Well, we're trying to do good.
Every penny counts, right? I mean, yeah.
Can someone online attempt to speak?
Yep, can you hear us now?
We can hear you.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay, you can hear me too?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Cool.
All right, all of us, right?
Just for fun, I want to say something too.
Way to go, Sammy.
Wait a minute, can they hear Joe though?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All
Just give us 1 minute and we'll call the meeting back to order. Yeah. Okay, to keep us moving, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Please feel free to meet your needs as necessary. And Mayor Benetti, I think you had a comment.
Well, yes, I just want to put things in perspective. So PERS and insurance has impacted us greatly. I made some testimony here at the legislature in Salem just recently. So in 2016, when I was reelected, our PERS cost us $1.4 million. As you see today, it's $4.8 million. And our insurance costs on top of it will make it over $8 million. Our tax rate, property tax rate, is $7.5 million. We can't even break even with it. This is what we're facing, and it's not going to get better. I've told the legislature we need a new tax reform. Brenda, you've served on there. It's hard to try to get them to understand, but we need to do some kind of reform or every city in Oregon is going to have a problem, and that's where we're at. So I just want to kind of put things in the perspective so everyone understands why where we're at, why we are where we're at. It's just a problem. So, and we can't control PERS, and we can't control insurance.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor DeNovo, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate Mayor Benetti's sentiment, and I think it's also fair to point out that there's a lot of instability at the federal level, and so there's concern, and I know that programs are being cut, and I know there's concern for grants, so I think this budget reflects a very, very conservative view in light of everything going on at the federal level and with costs going up, as Mayor Benetti already commented on.
Excellent, thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment before we dive into page 7 on your printed packet, which is page 48 if you're looking online? Okay, this is our, I'll highlight general fund tax imposed, just right over 7.5 million. As mentioned, this does not cover costs. The GO bonds are still being levied for the fire station through fiscal year 28. You'll see that here. Just a note that the estimated, I just want to make this correlation because I feel like it comes up in the community, but the 7.5 million that's received from taxes does not even provide enough to cover our public safety fees, which is 10.5 million. Okay, moving into page 8. Again, this is the general obligation bond. This is set to be completed in 2028. Moving to page 9. This is the debt that's issued to cover the water quality projects, the fire station, and the water board. If you don't know, both cities secured debt for water board projects due to the water board's classification and their inability to secure debt. This is a pass-through. Water boards send the money to the city necessary to cover the debt service payment. So there's some back and forth there. Okay, moving to page 9. This is really meant for some transparency. You'll see that under the cost of Coos Bay dispatch services, this is moving, you'll see this later. Page 11, this is what I would call the million-foot overview of the budget. So you'll see listed here under the fund resources, the, again, million-foot overview of the budget. General fund, 19 million, transportation fund, 6.5 million, water quality fund, just about 5.1 million, lodging tax fund, 1.5 million, library fund, almost 2 million, the library ESO fund, 1.2 million, building codes fund, 510, and the North Coos Dispatch Center fund, 3.6 million. Then you can see the debt services funds, the capital improvement fund resources, and the reserve funds, which totals us at just over $80 million. And if you look at the next page, as Nicole noted in her presentation, it balances. So we can close up for the night. I'm kidding. We got some more to review, but. Okay, moving into the general fund, and throughout these next sections, we're going to hear from different folks at the city. But Nicole, you're up first for the general fund.
All right, thank you. So for the general fund, just starting on, I don't have the online version pulled up, so I just have the paper version. But on page 14 is just a summary of resources. So kind of just makes it easy, quick to look at. And then it's going to walk into the next 3 pages, kind of explodes those resources out into the different categories. So resources first. Certainly happy to dive in if you had any questions on the resources. And that goes 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18.
So I would note a couple of things that are going to come up later. You can see there's on page 16, about middle of the page, last 4 digits of the GL 0340, the CDBG grant with NeighborWorks Umpqua at $150,000. Just a couple lines down from that, GL code 0365, the OHCS Youth Emergency Housing at $622,000. Both we're going to reference again later, so I would note those here.
So happy to answer if you have any questions on the resources for general fund. Okay. I don't want to rush folks, but since you're being super quiet, we're going to flip the page. That will walk us into page 19, which is a similar idea. It's a summary of expenditures by departments and or divisions. And then after page 19, it'll start walking into those either different departments or divisions. And each one of them is going to have a summary, just kind of descriptive, along with an org chart, so you can kind of see the staff members who support that department or division. So we move into the first division that we're going to review. That is City Council, which is on page 22. And this is, year over year, very much similar. There is a little bit of movement here based on some recent GASB, so Government Accounting Standards Board statements that require us to classify things a little bit differently. So the contractual line item, which is GL ending in 2108, and the new section of debt service that's down below, GL ending in 3000 and 3100. Contractual for City Council is things like our subscription we have for our agenda software. It helps us prepare and post those agendas online. That has to now be split out into a subscription or a lease, depending on the underlying factors of that agreement. And so what it used to be in contractual, it's now in that debt service space. You're going to see that throughout the budget. When you see a difference in contractual, it's likely because it's required by those new GASB statements to be reported a little bit differently.
Sarah, can I ask a line item or GL last four digits 2422 economic development? Nicole, can you remind us what that is?
Yes. We have a contribution that we provide to the South Coast Development Council. They're a regional organization that supports economic development through the South Coast. Traditionally, we contribute $15,000. In this last fiscal year, we actually contributed an extra $2,500 to them, and that gave us an addition of, we added an economic revitalization administrator position, and that gave that person the ability to sit in on those meetings and participate at a different level than just an average person. So that's really a South Coast Development Council support. Membership, I guess is a better word.
Thank you.
All right, if no questions, I'll flip over.
I
Yeah.
would just like to bring to question 24-25 library planning costs of $50,000. I realize we're talking about an $80 million budget here. However, we are at a place where we need to really analyze costs large and small. And so voters voted down a library bond. I think it needs to sit. I think we could save that for future, for other costs.
So is that something we want to redline? Is that what you're saying?
That is, thank you, Councilor DeNovo. That is something I'd like to redline.
Just a clarification, what specifically are the planning costs for? Is it for planning a new library?
What we've used that in the past was we had support from a consulting firm that did some survey work. We've used it for some media, just to give information related to the status of the building, just to hopefully educate the community. So those kinds of things have been in there.
Niebergall here. Is there any idea of what they'd be used for in the future? Is it more planning for a future library? Is that what it's there for?
So what I can say is that there is a library facility steering committee, and it has been kind of in hiatus for essentially since we had that on the ballot. And I know the library director, Sammy, and I have talked about in the last couple months retooling that committee. There are several members on the committee who are no longer here. Roger was on that committee. So making sure it's appropriately appointed and pulling those people back together to start a conversation about what's next, what's the next step we should do. And that could impact, that the planning costs here, those decisions that they might recommend to the council could be something that comes out of here. I'm not sure at this point what might come from that group, but.
So, not to kind of beat a dead horse or restate the obvious, we've indicated our revenue is not going to be increasing a great deal, and our costs continue to increase. So to Sarah's point, wherever we can draw back, we should draw back, especially if it's not immediate. That flips me to the library, though. That is also an issue and going to continue to be an issue. And at some point, it's going to have to be redressed. So, yeah, when I first heard you say that, I'm thinking, well, yes, but then I'm thinking, okay, so when are we going to be able to afford to bring it back? Because it's not like our revenue stream's going to significantly increase. And at some point, we're going to have to address that building. That's my own 2 cents. That's for discussion, I guess.
I would agree with reducing or eliminating this if part of the funds might be added to maintenance and continuing expenses of keeping the current library running, like the HVAC system on it, which I understand is about in the same condition as the one for this building, and may need some additional expenses that the city wasn't planning on in the hopes of that building being replaced in the near future. So, a little give and take here, yin and yang, might be in order.
Chair Stevens, can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
So for efficiency and what we've done in the past, when we redline something, that sets it aside for it to come back at the end of the budget and discuss it and determine how we want to move forward with it. So it doesn't stall the process that we're going through. I would recommend doing that instead of having the discussion now. Have it at the end when we have a list of things that we can go through and discuss and collaborate with.
Great.
Just be a suggestion.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will move on to administration, page 23.
Do we need to formally redline that, or is that what we want to do?
I think we already did.
Yeah,
There you
and,
go. That's what I get for paying attention.
Well, for everyone's information, normally when we redline it, any individual can just redline it and it's automatically redlined. We don't have to take a vote on it or ratify it. It just is redlined and we move on. So if that's appropriate, Chair Stevens.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right, so moving into administration. In last year's budget, this was actually presented as the city manager's office, the division for the city manager. And so we had some opportunities present themselves recently. Our finance director is leaving the area and recently identified a date by which she would be no longer here. And in that process, we talked a little bit internally. You'll notice we have some folks sitting at the table here to the side, and this is our finance department, which is normally a department of 4, it includes the finance director. We have a member of the group who is staged to step into that role with a little bit more time. And so we're going to use the opportunity with this transition to transition the finance department from a department to a division, bring them in under the umbrella of what now would be an administration department. And this works, or at least I believe it works, because I have a history, a background in working the finance, and I can kind of help with that growth over the next year or so. Brianna is over there in the middle. So she'll come in as a finance administrator, very much similar kind of that we have in the other departments. When we create a division, they are an administrator. That does a couple things for us. I think it kind of streamlines a little bit. It creates the administration department then becomes an internal service department. We acknowledge that, Public Works and Police and Fire, they don't have a finance person on their team. That is members of this department. There's support staff in the administration department that provides support across the whole city. And then there's also, some savings identified there in moving from a department head to a division head. So when we're looking at, some cost savings, that's kind of the process by which we got to this point. So this is being presented this year as an administration department. It's going to include the city manager, finance, and we previously had a city attorney division as well, and we're just grabbing all of that in under one bucket. So the variation between the proposed budget and what you will see in the current year's adopted and actual. That's the variation for the most part, is the addition of those other things. You will still see in the finance and the attorney, I don't think we combined attorney last year. Maybe we combined attorney last year. Yeah, we did last year. So in the finance department, you will still see the current fiscal year 25 data over there, because that is how it was budgeted, was a department in those. So again, happy to answer any questions for this administration piece.
Nicole, I have a quick question. So, and forgive me if you stated this earlier. It's my understanding, unless I have this incorrectly, historically, a portion of the city manager's salary lives within multiple funds, right? The 15 funds that we have because of the work that you do. So I thought I heard President Stevenson say that there's a proposal of a decrease in your salary. So I just want to make sure people understand, if I don't have this right, please correct me, that the city manager's position lives in multiple lines. Is that correct, in multiple divisions?
Yeah, that's correct. And that's actually true of several staff members across the city. And it's actually documented if you were to go to page 133 in the printed document. That shows you how people are allocated across various funds. And it's based on it's a time allocation. What are they doing in their kind of dailies? And which fund should cover the costs of that? So there's a number of staff members who are allocated across funds.
And we've done this historically for quite some time, correct?
Since I've been here, there has been this allocation, and I believe before.
Okay, thank you.
So, Councilor DeNovo, are you suggesting that you would like to see a change in the salary for the manager, given that Nicole has offered a reduced amount?
Well, I guess I would like to redline that if this is the place to redline it. So I think, I think we need to discuss that at the end of the meeting.
Great. Okay, moving into Urban Renewal Administration. Nicole.
Okay, thank you. So this division, I would say, is really, we spoke a little bit in the Urban Renewal Agency meeting about how there are costs associated for administration, legal, those kinds of things in managing the Urban Renewal Agency. The Urban Renewal Agency does not have its own staff members, and so this is really the cost, both people and items, that it takes to run the agency. This amount, which is a little bit less, under $1 million, is shared between the downtown and the Empire district as far as costs based on their total capital project budgets. And I guess I would also just kind of add some clarity across all budgets. When you're looking at the personnel services, you will see, year over year change, and that's based on that staffing allocation. So that could change year over year. If no questions.
So this, in this, if I'm understanding correctly and looking at 133, page 133, this is 70% of the economic revitalization, and that 70% of that FTE is out of this fund.
Correct.
I would like to redline that. Okay, moving into finance.
Okay, so we talked about this briefly. What you're going to just see on this is that historic kind of information. You're not going to see anything in this current fiscal year proposed for 26 budget. That brings us into the city attorney, and we did this with the city attorney division last year, was combined it into the city manager's office. Again, presented here for historic purposes related to ORS requirements. We need to carry this data until it essentially times out over the years. Moving into City Hall, page 34 on the printed document. This is the costs of just operating this building that we sit in.
Yes, so, I agree.
Mayor Benetti, you are unmuted. Oh, thank you.
So if no questions there, we'll flip into community contributions, which is on page 36. And just to give a little bit of background here, historically, this has been where we have allocated some of our state revenue sharing dollars to various community organizations. And in this fiscal year 26, we are presenting not doing that based on our budget challenges. What you will see here are some contractual obligations. We have an agreement with the Boys and Girls Club to help support their summer programming. That's an agreement that we have in place already. That's the $10,000. And then Chair Stevens already spoke to a couple of these items that we would see show back up again, and they're related to some grants. The CDBG grant that NeighborWorks Umpqua manages for us, and that's for housing rehabilitation. We've been doing that year over year. This is the balance, what we believe will be left running into the upcoming year. And then the Oregon Housing Community Service Youth Emergency Housing Grant. And the last piece, we did a little bit of cleanup thinking about community contributions. The Sobering Center used to sit in a different, well, this is kind of new for this current fiscal year and into the next year. The council approved using our opioid settlement funds. There's a nationwide settlement for essentially just prescribers, distributors, and manufacturers of opioids in response to the crisis that we've had across the nation for the challenges for addiction. Cities of a certain size, anybody over 10,000, received funding. There was a listing of items we could spend that on. Staff went through that and really was unable to come up with large amounts. Our estimated amount of the settlement is a little over $700,000, payable over a 15-year period. And so the city council made a decision to support the Sobering Center, which is going to open up at the Coos County Jail in one of the pods there. It's something that this community has been working on for years to put in place. And this is a great use. The county received some of these funds. We are the only two entities within Coos County that received settlement dollars. So we have some that we are providing in this current fiscal year, and then our ongoing agreement was to provide up to $50,000 in future years, and that's based on that 15-year settlement schedule that those payments should come in.
When is that slated to open?
That is a great question. I missed the last meeting. I don't know if you have an update.
I think they're hoping to try to get it open.
June? Okay. Thank you.
Nicole, GL 2650 OHCS Youth Community Housing, is the city taking an admin fee off of that?
Yes.
Is that 10%?
It is 3%, and the organization who's essentially doing the work is there's a 15% max, and so that organization is getting the 12%, and we are doing 3%. Same with the other two grants that were there, and almost covers the cost of our grant person for the admin piece that we receive for those 3 grants in this fiscal year and partial in next. So,
okay, great. It costs money to spend money, so we might want to even think about asking for a higher percent in the future.
Okay.
Moving into non-departmental, oh,
No,
sorry.
sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Brenda, please.
I have a real concern about two of these being deleted. The Veterans Outreach and the AYA are two of my big concerns. Are they are aware that you're not including them? And what were their responses?
Community funds page, is that what you're
Yeah, isn't that where we are?
Yep.
No,
Yeah, page
so page
36.
Still on page
Yeah,
36.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, these organizations were given information that we are not providing community grants.
And they're through application. So every year, interested organizations have to apply, which you would see in this packet.
Right.
So
they didn't even apply?
Well, we
Or
already
did you
knew
just
that
tell
we
them?
that we were not going to propose this to the committee.
Brenda, I hear you, and I will just say, as someone who knows a lot about a lot of these agencies, the city contribution was sometimes less than 2%, generally even less than 1% of the agency's budget, and we can't afford it.
That was just going to be my 2 cents. There's a lot of good things that we support, but if we don't have it, we don't have it.
And I still don't know what those, I don't understand what the EO 2302, what those balance of state, what those are.
So
Those are
those,
just dollars coming into us?
yeah, those three,
Uh-huh.
those, they have corresponding resources.
Right.
Those three were under the Coos County Homeless Response Office. They are 3 grants. The first one was North Bend. The city of North Bend received those funds as fiscal agent under the Coos County Homeless Response Office.
Right.
Coos County, North Bend, and Coos Bay formed that. North Bend found themselves in a staffing shortage, and so we talked with the state of Oregon, and that money was transferred over here to the city of Coos Bay. And it was to support response. House Bill 5019 was homeless response dollars. Those are, that specific grant is supporting additional shelter beds in our community and rehousing, so rental costs for folks.
So those grants came in and they're done? I guess that's my question.
The first 2 have to be finished by June 30, 25, yes, so they cannot
gonna
carry
done.
into the
Okay,
next
that's
year.
where I did.
The third one still has another year, and so we're estimating that we should have a large portion of it still left that will be spent in the next year. And again, it's an in and out, although there's a small admin piece that will stay in and not go out, so.
Okay, thank you. Moving into non-departmental, page 37 and 38.
So non-departmental are, it's kind of almost like internal service to a certain extent. These are things that we can't really allocate to a specific department. They have a greater coverage than, you know, maybe administration or the police department or fire or general costs of running the city. So for example, insurance, where possible, we allocate that to the appropriate departments based on what it is. If it's a piece of equipment, we know which department owns that. So you'll see that's our primary thing that sits in here. And then we do have some folks who a portion of their salary sits in non-departmental.
I would just like to point out GL 2120, you can see the insurance costs have jumped by $80,000, which has an impact. Okay, moving into other financing uses and expenditures.
So these are kind of, just other expenditures. This is where all our debt service sits in relation to the water board. We have an enterprise vehicle lease in here. Again, those GASB related items, which is the lease principal interest and subscription principal interest. All of our transfers, and then our du jour, we talked about that in urban renewal. The balancing point from tax increment coming in and our debt service payments going out, the balance is in du jour. This is our catch-all other expenses area.
But again, a really important page for us to be thinking about throughout this process because of that lack of contingency and the extremely low ending fund balance. Okay, one of my favorites, police department. You're up,
And
Chief.
Before we kind of step into that, I do know that Chief can't be here, I think, next week, right?
correct,
And so what we might want to do is walk through this section and then hop into Fund 10. So he has an opportunity to share with you guys this week when he's available.
Excellent.
Is that all
Let's do
right?
it.
Okay. All right. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to present our budget. Tonight I am going to present the two different funds, one for the police department, and as City Manager Nicole Rutherford just stated, the other one will be for our dispatch center, North Coos Dispatch. And just a little bit about the police department. This budget that I'm going to present first is a representation of all of our sworn staff, which is 24 sworn, and also our support services, which includes records and a part-time evidence technician. The police department is, for Coos Bay, is responsible for about 30,000 calls for service each year, and about 4,500 of those calls result in further investigation, what we call a case number, and generally results in some type of referral over to the DA's office. And so our team is very busy. We're involved in multiple different interagency teams, crash teams, major crimes team, just a whole host of things that are outlined in the description, and I know for the sake of time I won't go into all those. But what I'm presenting to you initially tonight is the police side of it, the Fund 240, and really there's not a lot of excitement to the budget. Really nothing necessarily that I need to point out or draw to your attention, other than I will say that if you look at our personnel services, you're going to see the increase there in our budget, and that is due to what has already been discussed tonight, the PERS and the insurance cost, and just the salary increases that are negotiated through collective bargaining agreements. The other thing, though, if you do look at the materials and services, you will see where we were able to draw on a reduction based off of last year's adopted budget. So we're at 309, and I believe last year you guys adopted a 368. So a little bit of a cost savings there. One of the things also, and then I'm open for any questions that you may have, one of the things that we also considered in an effort to try to save some money but maintain our fleet, as previously discussed, it's important for us to maintain our vehicles in a manner that is not costing us more to keep them maintained. We are looking at also entering into the enterprise lease program. And so this will be the first year that the police department has participated in that, and we are scheduled for 4 new vehicles. So you'll see in that debt services, the last 4 is 1000 and then 1100. Those are a representation of those 4 vehicles the monthly cost and what it'll cost throughout the next 12 months to have those vehicles. Those vehicles will be fully upfitted and fully ready for police application. But I'm open for any questions, comments, thoughts.
And then if you look at page 45, that's what we're going to talk about next, but that's in a different fund now.
So, yes, thank you. So the next page, 242, historically, a portion of the 911 center or the communications center was also under the 240 fund, and it was under the 242. As earlier stated, we moved all those, the whole communication fund under one. It's under Fund 10 now. And this is still noting the 22-23 fiscal year as required under RS. And so I believe this will be the last year you see that. So if we don't have any questions on 240.
I think you have one from Rick.
Okay, sorry.
One question. On the prior page, 3008, last four digits, the vehicles.
Yeah.
Large increase from this last year? $320,000 versus zero last year.
Okay, that's funny you bring that up. I brought that to question to my finance department just about an hour before this meeting. That is what the city manager, Nicole Rutherford, was referring to as far as booking cost under the GASB 89. And so basically what that is a representation of that 5-year lease. They have to book that total amount, annual cost, over a 5-year period. And I hope I said that correctly.
Essentially, we're trying to meet local budget law. If we don't get that in there, then we'll have a budget finding when we do the audit because of the way it will need to be entered at fiscal year end. So they are moving to the lease, option, which will be in the debt service. But yes, when there's new things, we get to hit that other expense item too.
I still don't understand, I'm sorry. So the 320 is budgeted for the length of the lease? Is that what you're saying?
That's a piece of it. I think there's some outfitting. I mean, there's some additional kind of costs that are associated to putting police vehicles in place. You'll see that, again, we talked a little bit about this in the city council section, like between contractual and the lease and subscription, it's split in there based on, again, that GASB statement. A portion of it has to be within the current year's operational costs and then future. GASB doesn't always make the best decisions. I'm just saying.
We're looking at 320 plus 60,000, 380,000 for 4 vehicles over.
I might be able to explain it to you how it was explained to me, that I could wrap my mind around it. So if you look down in the debt services, the 53,000, and then the 7,000 for the principal. Right. So we're looking at line item 1,000 and 1,100. That basically is a representation of $60,000. That is the monthly fee of those 4 vehicles times 12 over the year. Okay, so that comes up with the 60,000. So then, but that lease agreement is for 5 years. So then, if you take that 60,000 and more or less divide it by, or times it by 5, you're going to come up with roughly around $300,000. That $300,000, there's also a formula that GASB they used based off of a fire vehicle of similar application, and that's where they get the $320,000. So that's booked over that course of those 4 vehicles over the entire 5 years. Now, that's not a budgeted amount. We don't have those dollars. We're not requesting those dollars in the proposed budget. That's just booking what those vehicles, those assets are going to cost us over the 5 years of their life.
Okay, let me try one more way. So if you were to look on page 18, so essentially what we have here is 2 elements. You have a long-term obligation, which is where the debt service piece is. Yeah. And then you have the piece of the asset. So you're going to need to capitalize that and bring it to the balance sheet. In order to do that, you have to have this expenditure, a budgetary purpose, we have an expenditure. At end of year, we will capitalize that, it'll move over to our balance sheet. That doesn't come before you guys, you only see revenues and expenses. On page 18, you'll see we have to also book the lease proceeds, which are here 390 because it's shared across their several departments who are doing enterprise. So you're gonna book the proceeds, you're gonna book the capital. They're gonna balance out, but it allows us to then capitalize that asset that we're purchasing. So it's a really complicated way in order to make government look very similar to private industry. So when there's a comparable of financial statements for folks who might want to, invest in municipal bonds, you can look at financial statements and say, do I want to invest in this company or these municipal bonds? GASB does a lot of work to make sure that government has some comparable elements.
So Chief, can you, I know this on here, it says that you have 3 years of history of auto parts, and then 2024, you spent $35,000 on auto parts, and then the lease cars are gonna be $6,000 a month. So can you comment, the lease is probably much more affordable in maintaining the maintenance on our current vehicles?
That's what we're hoping. I mean, I don't have any real historical knowledge because this will be the first year that we have attempted the lease program, but that is what we are hoping. We're hoping that we'll actually see a reduction in the maintenance costs over the course of those vehicles' life. The other thing that the lease program will offer to us is they're also helping us manage our fleet. So they're going to look at when those vehicles they reach their optimum miles and life for them to pull back and resell in the open market. And so then we are going to start cashing in on some potential equity that we receive off of those vehicles. So that's kind of how that program works. It takes a few years to really kind of start getting all your fleet under this lease program, but then they'll help manage and they'll say these 2 vehicles or these 3 vehicles need to come off this year because we can get the greatest value back out of those, and then we can reinvest that equity back into the purchase of or the lease of additional vehicles. So it's kind of a long term, and so we're gonna attempt it this first year and see how this goes. Yeah.
Brenda?
Yeah, how many vehicles do you have in service?
So for our patrol vehicles, we generally have anywhere from 11 to 14 in circulation. That's for everyday patrol. Those are our marked units. We have some unmarked units that our detectives and administrative staff drive, but this is only focusing on our patrol vehicles right now. Our administrative vehicles are in really good shape, and we usually keep those for a long period of time. Maybe someday we will also put those into the lease program, but right now this is just focusing on patrol.
So is the plan to roll out to all 12 of those at some point?
Yes, and we're actually taking a look at whether or not we need 12 vehicles, especially if our vehicles are in better shape. We may not have to redline vehicles as often, and we may be able to operate with less. We're actually looking at maybe 9 vehicles for patrol.
Chief, Councilor DeNovo has a question.
Yes.
I just want to, in looking at the org chart, are all of these current positions filled? I know we've been short-staffed. I think we've had some people at the police academy. And the one I always ask you about every year, Chief, is the community resource officer. So are all these positions filled as I see it today?
I certainly wish I could tell you they are all filled and we're running fully staffed. That is not the case. However, the good news is we have completed our hiring processes. We have applicants identified. We swore one in last week. I have a chief's meeting with another applicant tomorrow morning to hopefully make a conditional job offer. We are getting close to being fully staffed, but then there is a little delay in training time, so we will have some time training these newer officers. But the good news is I think we're going to be fully staffed here in real short order, and then it's just a matter of getting them trained up and out on their own.
Okay, so just one last time, this budget reflects you being fully staffed in the next few months?
Yes, that is correct. This is
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we're going to move to page 102, which is the North Coos Dispatch Center funds.
Okay. I'm online, so I have to scroll through here.
I think it's about 20 pages off, if that helps, for those of you using the online packet.
And it's Fund 10. Okay, so Fund 10 is our Coos, North Coos Dispatch Center, and as I think most of you are aware, we recently took over all of dispatching for the entire county, and that's not only for police, it's for police, fire, and emergency services. So it was a heavy lift, and it was only made possible by the good folks that we have working for us. They worked extremely hard to make this happen, and I think it's turning out really well for our community, all of our county that we serve. And so with that, it was kind of a perfect, it just so happened that the previous year, we kind of started combining these budgets that I just talked about, the 242 into the Fund 10, and it was perfect timing because now we are going to be able to track those dollars spent a lot better, and there'll be a lot more transparency in terms of what it really does truly cost the city of Coos Bay to run this dispatch center. So with that, this budget that I will present to you here, it is for, again, a fully staffed dispatch center. We're not there. We're really close. We have a couple in backgrounds, and so we are hoping to be there by summer. Have our communications center fully staffed. But it represents 21 and a quarter FTEs. And as we discussed earlier, a portion, the quarter, what's the quarter? The quarter is I believe, a portion of my salary that comes out of this as well. So, and I'd like to also just take the opportunity to recognize this is Tessa Cupp. This is our communications administrator, and she has actually been absolutely amazing pulling this all together. And so I wanted her to be a part of this tonight. So just wanted to introduce her to you. So with that, the dispatch budget that I'm presenting to you, I can't really necessarily say it's a status quo budget, but it's a budget based off of what we have spent in the past historically. But there's a lot of unknowns for us right now as we move forward because of the merge of the dispatch centers. And so what we put together is what we feel is a good budget and what it's actually going to cost us to operate the center and provide the services that we want to provide to the community. But I'm open for questions.
Can you go into a little bit more detail of what these lease financing proceeds are? Looks like we adopted $25,000 last year, and there's a zero balance.
Can you reference a line item?
GL 0100 and 0200.
Okay, those are the lease principal and lease interest. Oh boy.
I can help. That's related to the GASB piece. So you're going to have the proceeds equal to the expenditure, again, capital kind of related thing, and then also tying to the principal and interest within the debt service for both. It's both related to lease and subscriptions. It depends on the type of category of the agreement.
So as you can imagine, we have subscriptions to quite a few software, our CAD program that tracks all of our police calls and fire calls, and so those are based off of those subscriptions. And anybody else? Thank you, and thank you for letting me skip ahead like that.
Thanks, appreciate it. So I'm going to do a time check. It is 8:16. We're going to go till 9 o'clock. You've probably heard me say before, no, and I take this from a past city councilor. It's not my words, but I will take them as mine now, that no good decisions happen after 9 o'clock. So we will end at 9 o'clock and be back again next Thursday. So I estimate we'll be able to get through maybe 3 or 4 more. So we're going to move into the fire department next. Chief, you're up.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So the fire department has had quite a few changes in its budget and staffing since the last time you met. Notably is the hiring of 5 full-time apprentices that was made possible through a $1.6 million grant through Bureau of Labor and Industries and the Oregon State Firefighters Council. So the apprentices started in January, and that is a 2-year program. So when you're looking through the budget, we've went from 16 and a quarter full-time employees to this year. The proposal is 22 full-time. So that reflects those 5 additional apprentices. It also reflects an additional full-time fire code inspector that was made through user fees by increasing the business license fees in the city and also implementing a fire inspection fee. And so that position helps for fire prevention by increasing education, code enforcement, and inspections of businesses and occupancies in the city. So when you're looking through the budget, you'll definitely see some big changes from what was adopted last year to what is currently spent or also what is proposed next year. And that is basically because when we got the funding, we got half of the funding for the 2-year program up front, which through supplemental budgeting was changed on here. So we've had a big increase in salaries, but then we also earmarked some of those funds because that 1.6 million covers also support materials, services, training supplies, equipment, different things to support the program. So originally we put them into those specific categories of training or equipment or whatever. But since then we've decided to make a new GL account. So you'll see that as the 2110, which is apprentices and interns. So you can see year to date, there is some funding out there that is all like the equipment and services, training supplies, things like that. So we can better keep track of those specific items we've had. And after a few years, when this program goes away, which hopefully we can renew it is our plan, but we don't know for sure. So.
And you were one of, was it 3 areas that received that grant?
This time around. So yes, it was Corvallis and then also Umatilla Fire District. So.
Did you or someone in your department write the grant, or did the grant writer write the grant?
No, I wrote the grant.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Quite an accomplishment.
So it's definitely some changes. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I just also would want to add, Chief opened up with, there's been some changes, and I would acknowledge one of those changes was his promotion from Battalion Chief to Fire Chief following Mark Anderson's retirement.
Yes.
Okay, Chelsea, you're up. Public Works Department and Community Development Department.
Okay, I think I'm on. Thank you. Chelsea Schnabel, Community Development Department, to go over planning. Our planning division is responsible in Oregon. Cities and counties are responsible to implement what they call statewide planning goals. They relate to land use measures. City has to maintain a comprehensive plan that's in line with those statewide planning goals, and then adopt ordinances, zoning, development code ordinances that are consistent with the comprehensive plan and the statewide planning goals. So our planners are doing that work. They're reviewing permit applications for compliance with those codes regulations. We have a planning administrator, a soon-to-be planner one, and then 2 codes planning specialists that kind of work as our permit techs. The proposed budget, if anything, makes cuts in acknowledgement of the current budget. If there's anything specific, any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer.
Chelsea, can you just give, for those who are unfamiliar with line item 2106 MUPD, I see you have 10,000 allocated for that. Could you just remind us what that's for?
Yeah, so the Multiple Unit Property Tax Exemption Program is a program the city recently adopted that would allow a property owner, developer who provides additional housing units, new units, or additional units in an existing building, they would get this. It's an incentive to incentivize the program to provide the housing, and they get a tax break for so many years. And the 10,000. And Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, but is to help administer that.
Yeah, so you may, I'm not sure, in this last fiscal year, the council adopted this as an incentive. So what you will see in the resource side is there's a fee to apply for this. So there's a resource for MUPD in the general fund resources. And because we will be interacting with the county assessor's office in implementing this, the incentive they get is forego property taxes on qualifying multi-unit residential units. So right now it's balancing. It's 10,000 in, 10,000 out. That's not accurate because we will maintain some of that revenue because we have costs there. We won't be sending out. I think the 10,000 going out is to support the county's cost to implement on their end. So no one's taking us up on it just yet. We're hopeful someone will, and then we'll know how that kind of works a little bit. Right now it's a balancing 10,000 in, 10,000 out.
So Chelsea, it's Joe. So there was no funding for the FEMA buyout? We're not expecting to have to deal with that this year? Hopefully not.
No, I'm not expecting, given the current state of the federal administration, but I know that the city council is backing lawsuit, and I'm not aware of the current status of that. I have not heard much from FEMA. I can say that.
All right, great, thanks.
Brenda? Yeah.
With the contractional you have for this year, 100,000 was adopted, and you've spent 58,000, and you're only budgeting 50 for next year, and we're not all the way through the year. So what's changed?
Well, we're almost done with the projects that were budgeted for, so there's that. And Nicole, do you have anything?
Another piece of it, again, is we're going to hit back on that GASB piece. It's touching everywhere. So a portion of that 50,000 is actually split into debt service subscription, principal, and interest, which is just around 12,000 there. So that's a piece of it.
So 50,000 will be enough for next year?
We will make do with 50,000.
Okay, thanks, Chelsea. We're going to jump back and forth a little bit here. Jennifer, you're up.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jennifer Wersing. I'm the Public Works Director for the city. In Public Works, we have an engineering division. Engineering works on both public and private projects. On private projects, there's both residential and commercial development. We'll weigh in on site development. We'll weigh in on sewer connections and any work done in the right-of-way. And then on the public side, we manage capital projects, we do in-house design, and we see those all the way from survey all the way through construction management and completion. And then we turn it over to either our streets division or our water quality division. So looking at the budget. Not a lot has changed, so if you have any questions, I can field those now.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Moving into parks.
Okay. So Parks is underneath the Operations Division. We have one full-time person in Parks, and they're responsible for the operations and maintenance of all of our parks and our cultural facilities. If you notice on the write-up, it funds 1.74 FTEs. And so we've included the whole Operations Division here because some of them do provide support to our Parks person. This is also the budget where we fund the Mingus Pool as well, so you'll see that.
Which we heard about earlier. You can see on page 62, GL 2412, 3 lines here. Sounds like we're working to reduce some of those things potentially. Utilities coming in at $75,000, supplies 30, chemicals 17. So thanks for the work on that.
Correct. And the supplies this year, we are looking at resealing the pool. I think we're going to get some volunteers. So we can keep those costs down, but yes, we are looking at ways to save money.
Brenda?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
I have a number of questions here.
Okay.
Emergency repair is a new line item.
Correct.
And did that take away from something else?
It's a good question, and it really, most likely, yes, it did, as long as everything at the bottom balances out, but we're trying to be more transparent. Every year we have emergencies, and so we just charge them to contractual or repairs, and it's not really, it can't be really tracked, and so we're just trying to be more transparent rather than saying, hey, at the end of the year, we didn't go negative on our budget.
Okay. And then 75,000 this next year for building and grounds maintenance, and there was 164 budgeted for last year.
Correct. We're trying to save money in the general fund.
And
by sacrificing our buildings and grounds.
Well, but if you look at the historical numbers there, 80,000, 75,000. That's what actually was spent. And the other thing I would just remind everybody, when we're looking at the adopted budget for the 24-25 year, that includes any supplemental budgets that we've done throughout the year. So that may not be what was originally presented to you. We could look and identify, it's possible we presented to you a $75,000 amount, and then it was modified with the supplemental budget, which is usually related to carryover adjustments, grants received that we didn't plan for, those kinds of things. That's usually what drives supplemental budgets for us. And while we move along, I'll look up and see what you approved.
And you don't have to. Last year we budgeted 80,000, so that was correct. It was a supplemental budget.
Great question. Mayor Benetti, did you have a question? Oh.
Yeah, so Jennifer, do we have a line item for the temp employees that we use in the parks?
We
somewhere?
do. That is, last 4 digits is 2112. It's called Little Patrol Beautification.
All right, thank you.
And sorry, Brenda, back to you.
Yes. The parks grants and donations, that looks like revenue, not materials.
So
I don't understand.
that is a new line item, and again, it's just it's a better way to try to track the grants that were coming in, and so it'll balance out with the resources at the beginning. And so that is actually related to the Toppets Defensible Space grant that we got last year. We have not spent it all, and this is what we anticipate on spending next fiscal year.
So what was the grants
There's a
for?
resource.
What was it for?
So it's for the Toppets Park Defensible Space.
See, to me, that would make more sense here. I don't know. That's what it is.
So
and then
we're
put it
super
in.
hopeful we're going to have more than one grant. And then we don't want to have 7 lines, so we're just kind of capturing, this is all grant-related expenses.
Okay, where do we show it coming in?
That would have been in the beginning.
Way in. Okay.
Rick, did you have a question? No, okay.
Sarah, I have one question. Jennifer, on boat ramp maintenance, I see that we adopted 20K in 24-25, and we're now proposing 45K. Can you tell me what the difference is there, what the additional expense is for?
I can in about 5 minutes when I power up my computer.
Okay, we're gonna hold that and come back to them.
And then can I can
Yes,
maybe
please.
help with Brenda's question on seeing that coming in. So back on page 16.
Right, I'm there.
There is account ending 0309, state grant fire prevention. In this current fiscal year, 85,000. We actually received 75, that's receipt year to date. So we have some expectation of expenditure of those dollars in the next fiscal year.
Awesome, okay. Other questions about parks? I think you can see that our parks depend heavily on volunteers since we do not have a lot of funding. And we want to make sure that we maintain our parks. So thanks to those that support litter patrol and cleanup and park beautification. Okay, code enforcement, Chelsea.
Yes, so code enforcement, we have within our building division, also under the community development department, we have one code enforcement officer. And again, I mean, the budget is really status quo, if not mostly cuts. With respect to nuisance abatement, we estimate it cost an average 10 to 20,000 per case. And so you'll see that between what we would maybe code these two contractual, 2108 and nuisance abatement, 2445, there's a total of 20,000 allocated. There's potential for 1 to 2 nuisance abatement cases to go all the way from start to finish. And I'll note that those do take times, often a year or more to resolve.
I had the privilege of sitting at the front desk this week and we heard a concerned citizen about one of those. So, thanks. Yes, Brenda.
Question. What I'm looking at here are the, am I in the right? Yeah. Oh, I'm in transportation. Never mind.
We're on page 65.
Yeah, sorry. I was one too ahead of you.
Okay.
I was. I'm good. Thank you.
Chair, I actually have a response to council.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the boat ramp maintenance is both the Empire and East Side bathrooms improvements, as well as the Empire Wave Boom that we're going to repair.
Great.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving into the transportation fund. Page 68. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one.
Okay. So the transportation fund is also managed by the operations division. If you go into the resources, there's several ways that this fund obtains revenue. It's through the state gas tax, through STBG, through the transportation utility fee. Before I move on to the next page, are there any questions about the revenue resources? Okay. So going down into expenditures, I will go right to a new category, which is emergency repairs. Again, we're adding that for the same reason, just to be a bit more transparent when we have these unplanned emergency street projects. In contractual, while it didn't really change a lot, but we also use that line item for temporary workers. And then the concrete, asphalt, and gravel, that's 2307. You'll note that we've only spent about half that, but yet we budgeted $200,000 for next year. And we plan on doing several pothole and spot repairs and also maintaining some gravel roads.
I would also point
Jennifer,
out,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
I would also point out page 71, GL 3180, construction of bike pedestrian paths. Multimodal transport is a goal of this council, and there has been just over 192 budgeted. Councilor DeNovo.
On that emergency repair, that $500,000, forgive me, Jennifer, where would we have seen that in prior years?
You would not have. This is actually a new line item. So it's similar to what we do in our water quality and our Fund 29 water quality fund, is where we have a line item for these emergency unplanned projects.
So for example, then, Jennifer, you have had emergency situations arise, like on South Wasson.
It's a perfect example.
Where you had a huge sinkhole, 101. This just helps you plan, because there's something that happens every year.
Absolutely, and these are jobs that are not covered underneath our jurisdictional exchange dollars.
So this is more, I mean, yes, transparency, but we're actually better prepared because we know there are going to be emergencies, and so we're just allocating funds accordingly. Is that correct?
Very well stated.
And then I guess I would just kind of add, like, identifying things that are repairs and that are not necessarily capital because they are not extending the life excessively, they're not changing the expected use, those kinds of things. So this might have been historically also kind of maybe commingled with our capital line item. So we're separating out, clearly delineating those difference of projects.
Thanks, Nicole.
Well, we were talking earlier that we needed to cut resources, and this one clearly adds $500,000 to the budget. I'd like to redline this one, if that's possible.
Sure. I mean, you can absolutely redline any, acknowledging that this fund is a little different than the general fund,
In that, because the money comes in and goes out from some other source, is that what you're saying? Why is it different?
just the revenue sources are a little bit different. I mean, you can certainly redline that, but your revenues coming in support that
Right.
that amount.
That's what I was just.
So whether it's there or it's in another
It won't
place,
matter.
it's 500,000 that you would want to allocate to some line item.
In transportation.
Yes, in this fund.
Gotcha.
And we've had to spend it anyway. In the
We
past,
have.
we just have to find it.
Somewhere else in the fund, in Fund 2.
Yeah.
So this helps us when we have a situation like where 101 was shut down and we had to cobble that money together through other funds because that had to be done.
It's okay.
It's not something that is, we just have a pot of money that we're adding to it. We've actually had to expend it because we have very aging infrastructure underneath our roads.
Councilor Nybergall?
I was curious, Jennifer, if you could talk a little bit about the jump in overtime. That's line item 1002.
So last year we budgeted 20,976. This year we're budgeting 24,125, and it just is a percentage of our salaries. So it's really in line our salaries.
I guess I was thinking more in the years before. Were there more staff added in 2024?
No, he's looking here. He's looking here.
So just to kind of speak to, again, like, these are budgeted amounts, and so we take salaries and we do a percentage of those salaries to put into overtime. It doesn't mean that that's what we've been spending. You're right. If you look historically, we're only spending, 2,000, 5,000. It's in current year, all the way through March, we've only spent a little less than 7,000. So that may be on the high side. It's just based on that formula, a percentage of salaries.
Okay. Thank you.
And you do a percentage of salaries because if you have a particularly bad year where you've got to bring your staff in and work a lot of overtime, you have capacity to do that versus budgeting a small amount and then having that situation arise and you don't have that in the bucket.
True, and then also, like, we're trying not to create a lot of administratively difficult processes in order to come to estimations. And so you could, like, look at this individual had this much overtime and we're going to do that, but we just make it easy. We just say a percentage of everybody who hits this is overtime based on their salary. So it's just a easy button for calculating overtime for this estimation. But yes, we could have a year where that's a real situation.
Counselor DeNovo.
Sorry, line item 3170, construction transportation utility fee. That's the full amount for the year. Is that right, Jennifer, that we collect with the TUF funds?
Actually, on average, we collect about $1 million, and I think that's what's shown in the revenue, but that's the carryover from last year. So it's $1 million plus 200.
Got it. Okay. So we've got 1.2, and those are just for road maintenance and for potholes, correct?
Absolutely. No new construction.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take a vote. We've got 16 minutes until 9. We can knock out water quality, or we can push it to next Thursday. So if you would like to hear about water quality tonight, if you could just raise a hand. I see no one doing that. Okay, Rick.
I do think it might be a longer than 16 minutes conversation. That's a pretty significant. Well, we think about that's our largest asset. It is a significantly large budget. There are some big
12 pages.
items in there to talk about. So 16 minutes might be short-sighted to think we're going to hop through that one.
Okay, thank you, everyone, for your time here and your thoughtful questions. We're going to close this budget meeting at 8:45, and we'll see you back here, same time, same place, next week, Thursday.